Garrett ran his hands over the heat of the fire pit, trying his best to wait out the hours. Guinevere was with him now, and she sat on the opposite side of the small room, eagerly waiting for him to speak to her. Garrett's eyes grew dark. The girl could wait all she wanted. He wasn't about to acknowledge her presence. He was doing what he'd agreed to do, what he'd been paid to do. Nothing more.
Garrett?
Guinevere finally broke the silence. The thief did not respond.
Garrett!
The young woman tried again. This time, Garrett answered her with an annoyed grunt. Guinevere tried again.
Hey, Garrett!
What?
He snarled, his eyes ablaze. Cowering meekly at his sudden outburst, Guinevere spoke.
So, how long have you been doing this sort of thing?
What? Housing ignorant little rich kids? This would be a first.
He sneered.
Oh, come on! Don't be like that! You knew what I meant.
She encouraged.
And what if I don't?
Okay then. Fine.
Guinevere rolled her eyes.
How long have you been stealing stuff?
Garrett pondered this question, unsure if he really wanted to answer it. He hadn't been like Guinevere. He hadn't run away from a warm and comfortable life out of rebellion. Stealing, for him, was all he had. It had kept him from death's door when he was but a pickpocketing orphan, and it had housed and fed him when he had lived under his greedy landlord. Garrett eyed the young woman pensively.
I steal to survive. I've always done what I needed to, nothing more.
Guinevere looked around, examining the inside of the dusty clock tower. She raised a brilliant red eyebrow in utter confusion.
But you live here now. Surely this city doesn't rent out the clock tower.
From her tone, Garrett wasn't sure if she was being sarcastic or completely naive. In his opinion, however, it sounded much more like the latter.
Don't get cute.
He scoffed dryly.
Was I? What did I say that was so cute?
Guinevere inquired. The thief shook his head and resumed his attention towards the fire pit. He wasn't going to enjoy this, and yet he had to endure it. He had done worse things as favors for Barso, always with the background thought that the boxman would end up having to repay him. A favor for a favor. It was about the only honor code people in his line of work had. As the flames cracked and danced, devouring the sparse bits of charcoal and paper, Garrett began to wonder if he truly needed an extra favor. His instincts had only sharpened over the years, and he rarely required anyone's assistance anymore, even for maps or information these days. The City Watch had gotten more and more tactless, and due to their constant gossiping, Garrett tended to stumble upon said information quite easily these days.
Garrett!
The girl yipped again, pulling him once again from his personal thoughts. The thief had a sinking suspicion that this was going to be happening a lot.
What is it now?
He groaned with utmost annoyance.
You didn't answer my question!
I know.
Why not?
I don't want to.
Guinevere crossed her arms and pouted.
Fine. Then I'm not going to tell you anything about me either.
Works for me. Keep that trap of yours closed, and maybe you'll learn something from me. The sooner you learn how to steal correctly, the sooner I can have my tower back.
Guinevere frowned. She turned her head, the fire illuminating her ruby hair in a soft orange glow. She began to examine the room she was in. There were 2 floors in her host's domain, and she was sitting halfway down the steps. From here, Garrett was above, towering over her like a solemn statue in the night. From what little first impressions the place gave, she could tell that the tower was well lived in. There was a filthy mattress practically thrown into the corner of the room, and several broken bottles and crates lying nearby. About the only part of the room that wasn't in a state of decay was the bright area to her right. There were several display cases, each housing rare and beautiful treasures. One in particular, an elegant yet simple bronze ring, caught Guinevere's eye. She would never have even noticed such a mundane trinket, had it not been situated on its own pedestal in the very heart of the thief's collection.
You certainly take great pride in your work, regardless of why you do it, Garrett,
she commented. He didn't bother to answer her this time. So instead, the young woman began to watch him. His bi-colored eyes held a serious, almost saddened expression. She began to observe his every motion with utmost interest. Why would one as skilled and wise as this man choose to live in a dilapidated tower? Had something terrible happened to him, or had he always been this way? Although Garrett acted content within his realm, within his lifestyle, although he seemed to treat all others with aloof and distanced contempt, Guinevere was certain that there was a very good reason as to why, and she was going to find out. As the hours waned on, Garrett chanced to peek at his forced protégé. Guinevere was still situated near the bed. Guinevere was still situated near the bend in the stairway. The young woman appeared to be falling asleep, her head slouching to just above her breasts. Reluctantly, the thief crept silently towards her. Garrett edged closer, trying to judge if the girl had anything of value on her.
The least you could do is pay me for my lessons,
he murmured. As he got ever closer, he could indeed tell that she was now lost within the grips of slumber. Garrett crouched down before her, his right eye taking in the lost princess before him. Her breathing was shallow as she slept, her red hair falling down both sides of her smooth face like a waterfall of blood. Her thick eyelashes fluttered slightly as she continued her personal sojourn through the land of dreams, her full lips emitting a gentle, warm breath. Her body slid further down the wall, until finally, Guinevere muttered something and rolled on to her side. Once she had resumed slumber, Garrett came even closer. He was beginning to, for whatever reason, grow curious about her. Much like Barso had pointed out, she was a magic user, and magic was all but gone within the world. As much as the thief refused to admit it, Guinevere herself was a rare treasure. But as Garrett already knew, all too well, treasures could be very dangerous things. He had learned long ago to never trust those who possessed supernatural abilities and skills. Such beings were dangerous, and even a master thief should not trifle with them.
Why are you here? You never answered my question either. But then again, I never asked you openly now, did I?
Her outfit was rather ostentatious, a navy blue corset with silver trim around the breasts, and a very short skirt that barely covered her thighs. Under the confines of the lengthy cape that she always wore, he had never even noticed. The sight of her exposed, pale flesh almost caused him to laugh again.
You look more like a harlot than a thief. I wonder if that's the real reason Bassos takes such a shining to you.
Guinevere continued to hum within her dreams, completely unaware of Garrett's presence, or his critical analysis of her outfit. However, amusement was not the only feeling that the young woman's scantily clad body administered. Garrett suddenly felt his pulse quicken, and his body tensed. Immediately and almost instinctively, he reached forward and draped her long blue cloak over her body. Guinevere muttered something again, but then resumed her rest. The thief stood and dusted himself off. It had been a very long time since he had seen that much of a woman, and such urges could not be avoided. He tiptoed around her and dashed to the confines of his own bed. Garrett had always associated feelings for someone with getting caught, and truth be told, in the event that he did indeed develop feelings for a Simmons, he would not only be caught, he would be hung.
That's not about to happen. It was just a one-off. Anyways, in the event that she does stir me up again, there are plenty of dark frocks and peasant girls out there looking specifically for a bad man like me. I've been there before. I'm not about to lose my life over a trivial urge.
He blew out the single candle nearest his bed. In the silence of midnight, the thief's eyes gleamed.
What are you doing here?